I'd say that pretty much every wrestling fan ever has seen at least one match on this show. But what was the rest of the card like? Was that any good? Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this, another episode of 1998 Was It Great? Tonight we're going to be talking about one of the ones that everyone seems to know all about. It's the King of the Ring 1998, and no matter what you feel about King of the Ring tournaments, whether you love them or like me you don't like them, like I say, everyone knows of this show. First things first, let's talk about how we've got here then. So Taka came out the night after Unforgiven, got a work shoot sort of thing, wearing his street clothes, came out, talks about beating all the giants that Vince McMahon had put before him. Early 90s Taka, that's pretty much what he did, didn't he? He did a cookie cutter, rinse and repeat sort of feud. Big guy comes in, Taka beats him. Big guy comes in, Taka beats him. Rinse and repeat, like I say. He talks about how Vince didn't want him to represent the WWF, so he always had a short tenure, his 2 championship reigns. And yeah, he used his family's strategies to get ratings. This brought Vince out. Taka demanded a title shot. So Vince said that Taka beat Kane that night. Winner is the #1 contender in that match. Kane beat his brother after Mankind interfered. Mankind then battered Taka to close the show. A week later, Vince McMahon was presented with Humanitarian of the Year by a couple of charities. And during the ceremony, which Austin was forced to attend, Mankind and Kane battered him during that one. That was fun, you know. And of course, the Humanitarian of the Year segment was really funny because both the charities didn't remember getting any money from Vince and shit like that. But there you go. A week later, we got the second ever Hell in a Cell match. Well, sort of. It's meant to be a tag match, Undertaker and Stone Cold versus Kane and Mankind. The match never really got started. It was all a big setup all along because Taker never came out. Austin is fighting Kane and Mankind on the outside. Paul Bearer, thinking he's the big I am, padlocked himself inside the cell. No sign of Taker. He can't be hurt because Taker beating him up, you know. And you've got an engine modern. Yeah, and then Taker ripped the canvas open, came out through the ring and beat up Bearer some more. And then the week later, he beat up Bearer at his own house, which was funny stuff. Yeah. Oh God, I've lost my place already. Oh, Kane climbed to the top of it to get to Bearer, and Austin hit Mankind with one hell of a chair shot. Climbing to the top of the cell, gave us the gyros. He wants Kane! He wants Kane! He batters Kane at the top of the cell. What was weird with this one is the way the cell was flexing under the two men's body weight. You know, a week later, Vince challenged Austin on Kane's behalf, made their title match a first blood match. Oh, it's not just a first blood match, though, because that on its own, first blood match, Austin versus Kane. Well, who wants to see that? No, Kane spoke for the first time, taunting, and we used it to taunting. Sorry, Austin used a fucking voice box that he held up to his vocal cords and said that if he didn't win the championship, he would set himself on fire and breathe his last breath. Woohoo! Some guy called Edge made his debut on the Raw before this pay-per-view, facing Jose Estrada. He won via countout when he hit a somersault plancher and broke Jose's neck. That's a good start for Edge, wasn't it? Really, well done. Oh, and remember what I said about over the Edge about in the mask versus mask match? Remember how I said it was a foregone conclusion? Remember how I also said that after the match, Vader wrestled again in his mask, so the whole stipulation was completely pointless. Now I thought, in my mind's eye, I seem to remember that Vader had fucked off for a bit. I don't know why that is, but I didn't think he wrestled again in the WWF for a while. Turns out he wrestled 8 days later after the pay-per-view on Raw in his mask. So the stipulation really was pointless, utterly pointless. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's June the 28th. It's 1998. We're live at the Civic Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home of WWF Unforgiven 2001, amongst many, many others. There are 17,087 fans on hand. And here's an interesting one. The buy rate is up 100,000 buys from last month, up to 310,000 buys. As a comparison, WCW's Great American Bash, which of course we'll be covering next in this series, was earlier in the month in June. That pulled 290,000 buys, which meant that a lot of money was spent on by wrestling fans in this their month. The opening package for this show focuses on the first blood match and on the Hell in a Cell match. You wouldn't know the King of the Ring tournament was happening if this pay-per-view wasn't called the King of the Ring. So let's get started, shall we? Taka, Michinoku and the Headbangers defeating Kaientai in alright opener. Taka has a dress on, so there's an honorary headbanger for the night. JR and King tell us all about the main event during the early goings of this one, including telling us that Kane will indeed set fire to himself and breathe his last breath. And as I'm watching this, I'm enjoying the match, but I'm sat there thinking to myself, I wonder how many of those 310,000 people bought this show on the premise of seeing a man set on fire. You know, Austin's just beaten Dude Love two pay-per-views on the bounce. Yeah, he'll beat Kane. We're going to get to see a guy set on fire. Happy days are here again. As someone once said. Anyway, Thrasher gets a nice power slam in the early going, Mosh gets a power bomb, and Taka gets a nice missile dropkick and a sweet springboard dive to the outside before Kaientai take over. Taka is your Asian in peril, including taking a nice baseball slide into a head scissors by Men's Tier, which is really nice, and a nice double team face bust by the Kaientai crew. The crowd pop for the spots. Very quiet in between. Mosh gets the mild tag as a result of that. The Bangers clean house and Flapjack Taka onto Funaki. He follows up with the driver, which gets the win. 6 minutes 44. I think this one could have gone another 4 or 5 minutes and would have been just as good. Next, out comes Sable. Out comes Sable after the crocodile tears at the end of the last pay-per-view. Remember what I was saying? Like, this is another one. This is a stupid, pointless stipulation. Two stipulations were on the last pay-per-view, and neither of them were adhered to, which later on breeds the contentness of wrestling fans, where they go, right, you put a stipulation in front of me, why the fuck should I believe it? Anyway, Sable had been mentioned by Jim Ross and Cole on the Raw after Unforgiven. Then the Raw after that, they presented a sort of tribute video to her. Week after that, yeah, get this. This is the woman who's been fired, yeah. This is so stupid when you think about it. She opened the show. Raw, opening package, first thing, Sable's music. Out comes Sable. Damn, it's good to be back, she says. She then introduces Vince McMahon. She reads out a prepared statement, nothing about Sable, about the ongoing storyline that Vince has prepared for you. And basically, the whole point is, I mean, Jim Ross mentions a couple of times on that Raw, we still don't know why he's brought Sable back, but he just has. There is no explanation for it at all. Anyway, here, Sable once again introduces Vince McMahon. He comes out with the Stooges, and as Sable goes to leave, pats and spanks her on the ass a little bit. So she delivers one hell of a slap to his face. Vince talks about how many people have tuned in tonight to see Kane set on fire, which goes with exactly what I'd just been thinking. Vince says we are setting ourselves up for a huge disappointment, but that's all right, because our whole lives have been disappointment, and basically, to prepare us for the disappointment, he's going to do his best impression of the ring announcer and says, ladies and gentlemen, your new WWF champion is Kane. Did his job, I suppose. Ken Shamrock defeating Jeff Jarrett to advance to the King of the Ring finals. Jarrett had beaten Farouk and Mark Miro to get to the pay-per-view, while Shamrock had beaten Nation members Karma and Mark Henry. Shamrock went into the match with an injured ankle courtesy of Owen, Hart and the Nation. Back and forth in this one until Tennessee Lee, Jeff Jarrett's manager, interferes and trips up Kenneth so Jarrett can go to work on the injured leg. And obviously I like this one a lot because Jeff Jarrett's finishing move is the figure 4 leg lock. So it works, it's all good, and it's all good, and it's all good, and it's all good until, of course, Ken makes his snap comeback, which means he has to no-sell the leg. He does hit the stupidest thing that you can do if you've got an injured leg. It's a leg lariat. It's not like it's a spinning heel kick. Leg lariat with the injured leg, and you just go, fucking pointless. This is right. Oh, when psychology's done right, I love it. When it doesn't make sense, when they do shit like this, you just go, pointless. He gets a Rana, an ankle lock gets the win at 5 minutes and 29 seconds, and Tennessee Lee gets a suplex for his troubles as well. Ken then tells Michael Cole that he didn't come here to be second best. Okay. So then The Rock defeating Dan the Beast Severn in a mere match to advance to the King of the Ring finals. Rock defeated Vader and Triple H to get here. And Dan the Beast Severn, Dan the Beast Severn, a former NWA World Champion, as well as a legendary, no doubt about that, MMA fighter. Severn made his debut in the WWF a few weeks earlier, and then in his first King of the Ring qualifier, he beat D'Lo Brown, putting on like a modified bow and arrow stretch on him and tearing his pecs. It's all good. Let me tell you this, right? He also beat Owen Hart to get here, and let me tell you something. My overriding thing with Dan the Beast Severn is I think he's the scariest looking man I've ever seen. His stare when he comes out to the ring is burned upon my fucking retinas. It's terrifying. Anyway, as with all recent nation matches, the refs send the nation back to the back. Man, I remember this match being really, really good, and it just isn't. There is nothing of note in this one whatsoever until Karma, Mark Henry, they come charging out. The referee's distracted. D'Lo Brown comes out. He's got a great big chest protector on. He hits the lowdown. Fuck, it's pretty. Yeah, that gets the Rock can just drape the cover, get the arm over the cover, and get the win at 4 minutes and 25 seconds. Rock cuts a promo after that. It's absolutely superb. Next, though, Too Much defeating Al Snow and Head in a piss-poor match. So the Fillmore Leaf Cassidy have been down in ECW perfecting the madman known as Al Snow, who talked to a mannequin's head. He arrived in the WWF after trying to get an... In fact, incidentally, if you want to know more about his time in ECW, watch the Rise and Fall of ECW DVD, because they tell a great story about it there. He wanted an interview with Vince when he felt, he tried to get one. When he failed to do so, Lawler said he would get Snow an interview if he would be Jerry's bodyguard to protect him from the Undertaker. At Unforgiven, we saw Al Snow come out to do Spanish commentary. The next night on Raw, he was a Japanese photographer, for example. It was hilarious. And it sounds. When he didn't get the interview, Al Snow stole Lawler's crown and then beat up Lawler, and I guess that was enough to impress Vince or whatever. Because what basically the deal was, if you win your match tonight at the pay-per-view even, then yeah, you can have your interview. How's that sound? The comedy music on the build-up package here doesn't fill you with confidence. It's like, yeah. It's like they're setting you up saying, look, this will be a comedy match, just so you know in advance. Too hot Scott Taylor, too sexy Brian Christopher. They are too much. They have faces that you just want to punch. Well, I say they. It's still Brian. You just want to punch him in the face repeatedly. Jim Ross notices that there's no referee, so you can probably imagine what's going to happen next. As naturally, Jerry the King Lawler is the referee, and Jim Ross's absolutely disgusted face is just fantastic. Match is about as good as you can imagine. It's essentially a 3-on-1 match, so of course King helps his boy and he delivers the slow counts and yada yada. Match plays mostly to silence and it drags on for 8 long minutes. So we'll skip to the end as Snow gets a nice German and a nice double TDT on the heels. And then, yep, you guessed it, because it's always going to happen, the hot tag to Head. Head is the legal man. What am I saying? Says Jim Ross, which just sums up this match beautifully. Snow powerful Brian. By Al Snow, but my Head, obviously. King won't count. Well, he's not legal at this time, so he's not right, so good point. Ball shot by Head as Lawler gets something from under the ring, tosses it to Brian. Snow hits a snowplow on Taylor as the thing that Lawler had chucked to his boy was a bottle of Head and Shoulders. Slams it into the Head, pins Head. 1, 2, 3. Because the Head has now got shoulders. Now, I can't decide if this is straight up genius, if this is ridiculously stupid, or if it's a tiny bit cute. I don't know. It's just one of those. Ugh. The thing is, right, that finish is quite entertaining, alright? You can give them that one. You can say, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I'm sure you sat there. Oh yeah, I remember that. It was funny. That bit was entertaining. The rest of the match was god-awful. Has like a couple of nice bits in it, so I think my rating down below is quite generous. Next, X-Pac defeating Owen Hart in an alright match. Owen attacks X-Pac during his return match, a King of the Ring qualifier against Triple H, after Rock had distracted them by cutting a promo from in the crowd. Triple H won that match by count out. Owen injured his knee. A week later, after Rock had beaten Triple H to advance in the King of the Ring final, massive DX Nation brawl broke out, and Pac was just focused on Owen. I am going to batter you. JR rips the last match before this one starts. Quite rightly says that match set the business back 20 years. Fantastic. Pac's return to pay-per-view action. Been out a long time with a serious neck injury. Pac gets a nice plancher before the bell. Owen comes back with a backbreaker, gets two off a fisherman suplex and a gut-wrench suplex. All good because they're working the back. They go outside where Owen suplexes Pac onto the Spanish table and then forwards. Yeah, there's a thing. I haven't got this written on my notes, but yeah, the table doesn't break, all right? And you start thinking to yourself, like, was that one prepped to break or not? Because they knew that Foley's bump was coming out. They follow it with a sleeper in the ring, which is an odd one by a babyface, isn't it? Pac counters. No, sorry, Owen hit that, sorry. Pac counters and hits his kicks, the kicks he does. Hits a Bronco Buster, gets no reaction. They go up top where they attempt a superplex. Both men fall off the top. Pac lands on the outside where Mark Henry comes waddling out and splashes him. Chyna, who's been out there with X-Pac, is proper vexed about this, gets in Henry's face, but then Vader comes charging out and basically just bowls into him so hard that he falls over. And of course he's got his mask on, so yeah, like I say, situation, why would we believe that? As they're brawling on the outside, X-Pac gets into the ring, walks straight into a sharpshooter. Chyna breaks that with a DDT. Pac drapes the arm over. 1, 2, 3. It had an overbooked ending, but I enjoyed the match as a whole. It advances both the DX versus Nation storyline and the ongoing, I haven't talked about it because it isn't very good, but the ongoing Mark Henry versus Vader feud. Everyone wins. It's a good match. Out comes Paul Bearer, fresh from being attacked by Undertaker at his home 6 days ago on Raw. Speaking of which, that gave us a genuinely brilliant line and a nice little bit of continuity where Undertaker, basically, Paul Bearer's filmed watching Raw at his home, and when Kane made his big announcement that he'll set himself on fire, Paul Bearer was like, he'll do it! He'll do it! Anyway, Taker busts into Paul Bearer's living room while he's watching Raw, and Taker comes out with just the most fantastic line, which is what? Do you think I'd forget where you live? And that absolutely obliterates Bearer. And it's one of those, look, they hung out for years. He will remember where he lives. Brilliant. Anyway, Bearer says, you weren't expecting me to be here tonight. I wouldn't miss anything for the world. He talks about Kane. He confuses the start. This is the start of the confusing backstory. Because he says that they'd sit and watch wrestling together. They watch the WWF together. And Kane would turn to his dad and say, I want to be like him. And it's like, but you can't have done that because Paul Bearer was with Undertaker at that time, but we were also told that Kane was locked in a mental institution his whole life. Oh, it's just confusing, it's one of those, yeah, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, you can laugh at the fat man, but tonight he'll be the father of and the manager of the WWF champion, and he can laugh all the way to the bank. Whoop-de-doo. The New Age Outlaws then defeating the New Midnight Express in a match to retain the WWF Tag Team Champions. Actually, this was a good match. This is one of the bonus matches. The opener was a bonus match, and this is a bonus match. We, the fans, have zero reason to care about this. I mean, why would we? This match was announced the day of the show. 4 Raws leading up to this show. They've been on it one time. They've been on the Midnight Express, I mean. They were in a tag... Oh, this is crazy. A tag title shot Royal Rumble for tag teams, right? Kane and Mankind won that one. Yeah, the New Midnight Express were the first team eliminated. The very first one. That got them a tag team title shot on this pay-per-view. Anyway, despite the fact that we don't have a reason to care, I believe we do have a reason to care. It's a double reason to care, So I don't care about this match because it's got no build-up, but I should care because not only is this match the first ever that I can think of meeting, that I've ever seen anyway, between the WWF and the NWA Tag Team Champions, because that's what they both were at the time, but, ladies and gentlemen, you should be excited for this when it's Billy Gunn versus Bart Gunn. Fucking bring it on. Oh, yes. The Guns have a nice little sequence to start, including a famouser that gets no reaction at all, which is hilarious. He then tells his brother to suck it, does Billy, and you're sat there going, really want him to? This is the problem with the suck it thing from DX, in my opinion. It really is that you're telling man and woman to suck your cock. Do you really want them to suck your cock? So going to your brother and saying, suck it. Just think of the logistics of it for a second. What are you going to do if he actually pulls your pants down and starts trying to suck your cock? What are you going to do? I know you're just going to go, fuck off, what are you doing? And you're like, you just told me to. Oh, never mind. That's an argument for another time, isn't it? Yeah, DX were great when they were telling me to suck their cocks. I'll pass, cheers, Hunter, if it's all the same to you. Holly. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Dog is your degenerate in peril as the Express utilise quick tags and nice double teamwork. The crowd naturally don't give a shit in the slightest, why would they? Holly then tells Dog to suck it, and that makes Billy Gunn really mad. Like, no, only I'm allowed to suck Dog. No? Wait. No, I don't understand why he's mad about that. But he comes in and hits the Bulldog. Holly sells the shit out of it, locks her a chin lock to really get the crowd, who've been completely silent to this point, into the match. Chin lock. Yes! Billy gets a mild tag, goes for a power driver. Cornette breaks that with a tag belt, and Bart distracts the ref. Cornette wants another one, hits a low blow from China, which gets a big pop. The Outlaws then hit a stun gun for the win. What a shit finisher that was. Match is decent enough, honestly it is. Crowd hated it other than the low blow. Have the Outlaws got APA syndrome is a question I will ask you. You know, APA syndrome. Fucking yes, it's the APA. APA in the match, like, do something then. Oh, there's a clothesline from. You know, I have a feeling that the Outlaws are the same. You pop, oh, you didn't know. Fucking yes. Love me some Outlaws. And then when they're actually in the ring, it's like, oh, it's just so boring. Maybe that's the case. Ken Shamrock defeating The Rock in a good match to win the 1998 King of the Ring. And you sat there, the first thing that you think of at this time is surely Rock's going to win this. They won't give the King of the Ring to Ken Shamrock. That'd be silly. Nice little continuity here, because of course Ken Shamrock spent most of the early part of 1998 chasing The Rock for The Rock's Intercontinental Championship, and The Rock would generally retain his belt by some cheaty healing means, you know, putting some brass knucks in Shamrock's pants or something like that. Triple H comes out to do colour commentary for that one. He says that the King of the Ring is a stepping stone to greatness, which I don't agree with. Shamrock scores with a nice kick to the fans. He has a perfect time to remind Rock that he does indeed suck. Chyna joins the Spanish announce crew, and it turns out she speaks pretty good Spanish. Jim Ross asks Hunter if he is bilingual. Hunter replies saying that there are many bi things that I am, but bilingual isn't one of them. And it's like there's a pause of about 10 seconds where the silence is so heavy, and you're just like, you don't see it on screen, but you can sort of feel Jim Ross and King sort of look to Hunter, and he's like, did I just say what I think I just said? It's very, very good. Anyway, after a bit of brawling, Rock and Triple H have a stare down on the outside, which leads to one we have not seen on these there vids for a very long time. So because it's a rare one, join in with me if you like, as Rock and Triple H have a stare down, which leads to some caffeinated water of doom from Hunter. Fucking yes. Rock kick takes control with a low blow and an eye raid, but inside Kenneth gets two off a nice belly-to-belly suplex. Hunter checks his mic is still working after the Evian of death with a classic testes, 1, 2, 3. Very funny. They brawl until Rock gets a 2 off a neckbreaker, and then he gets another 2 off a sweet photo over DDT. Rock is a heely fucker and applies a chin lock, then hits the people's elbow, the reaction for which, as I seem to say every time, is getting bigger and bigger by the week. It gets 2, as does a second DDT. The crowd are red hot for this one, into every single thing that's happening, and they are falling for every single near fall. They really think it's going to be the win. Ken starts to come back with a back suplex. He follows with a drop kick, nice belly-to-belly suplex for 2, and then gets a 2 for the perfect plex. Raw gets a power slam for 2. Shamrock counters another DDT into a Northern Light suplex, which gets a great near fall. Ken tries for Rana. Rock counters into a snapshot for 2. He argues with the ref, which gives Ken time to recover, puts the ankle lock on, which gets the clean as a sheet tap out victory at 14 minutes and 10 seconds. Really enjoyed this one. In fact, this match was a lot better than I remember it being. Like, honestly, a lot. The crowd were red hot. They were into all the near falls. Hunter was out there, but he didn't get physically involved other than the water of death, which furthers their feud and adds intrigue and adds, wood to the fire and all that. I thought this was a very good match. Next, The Undertaker defeating Mankind in a, we'll see, Hell in a Cell match. Okay, so we've seen this one. We've all seen this one. You can have people who have absolutely no interest in wrestling whatsoever, and they've seen this. If they know someone who's interested in wrestling, they've seen this match, because for one thing, it's just a ridiculous match, isn't it? The second thing is that this is a very good one to bring out if your friends say that wrestling is fake, for example. You can put this match, right, wrestling's fake, is it? Well, fucking watch this. How did they fake that? How's that sound? I've got two ways of doing this. I can either go through it. I asked on Facebook, basically, what did you guys think? I had let's read the comments first, before we go through the match. Let's read some comments. So Les Stewart says, the moment that WWE won the war with WCW, because there is no way that WCW could top it, but destroy wrestling at the same time, because there was nowhere to go after that. I'd say WWE won the war a good, at least 6 months later with the finger poke of death, but that's different. Lloyd Morgan says, JR's reaction summed up my feelings while watching it. Good God Almighty, that killed him as God my witness. He's broken in half. I've got it written down in capitals to make sure I say it like that. Wrestler G-Man says it's a 3 or 4 bump match. Taker did it with broken foot or ankle. Yes, an ankle he had broken, Chris. The second bump through the cell is the most appreciated by the workers, and the chair that said bump hit him in the face, making him lose that tooth. Kevin Leary says, one of the most memorable matches, just not in the Attitude Era, but in all of wrestling. Mick Foley being thrown off the top of the cell, through the cell, coupled with the spots involving the thumbtacks, makes this one of the most brutal, if not the most brutal match in pro wrestling history. Adam Ross says, crap match, unforgettable images. Phil Torkington says, a great stunt show, an insane spectacle of guts or stupidity, depending on your viewpoint. A wrestling match, it sure wasn't. Chris Dutton says, people tend to just focus on and talk about the 2 big cage bumps, which is unfair, as the rest of the match is just as captivating to watch. Lord Kevin Cross says, uncomfortable, still is now. Joey Voss says, if you take the falls out of it, it's a pretty average match. I wish they didn't have the Hell of a Cell on Raw the week before, because that took some out of steam out of it. Lee Hellion Goodfellow, best ever, 1 or 2 I ever went 5 stars for. Craig Johnson says, it may not be one of the most technically sound matches of all time, but the pure spectacle of Foley's bumps just makes you want to rewatch the match a numerous amounts of times. And then on and on, there's a load of really good comments. They're all brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Let's go through their match then and say what I think of it. So, last Hell in a Cell was an absolutely classic match. One of my all-time favourite matches is Shawn Michaels vs The Undertaker, Hell in a Cell, Bad Blood, 1997. Was there much interest in this match before we go on, is what I'd like to know from you. What were you thinking going into this one? Because, of course, Mankind vs Undertaker had happened a lot on pay-per-view to this point. So do we really need to see another one? Maybe that's why they put the Hell in a Cell stipulation on it. And Taker is working this match with a broken ankle, as we've just said. Mick Foley asked Terry Funk, what should we do in this match? What should we do to be different? What can we do to make it better than the last Hell in a Cell match? And Terry Funk went, probably start on the top, which they do. They go up top straight away. Foley's first thing he does goes up the top, takes his chair with him, sort of goads Undertaker to come on up. And after 30 seconds of chair shots and brawling, where they're on top of the cell, and as I say, the cell is sagging, visibly sagging, with their weight. There's some clips that hold the mesh onto the main part of the cell, yeah? You can see one of those breaks as they walk across, and you're sort of going, I would want to get down. Foley does get down, but it's not in the way that I'm sure he wanted to get down. 30 seconds after they went up the top, Undertaker throws Mick Foley off the top of the cell. It's easily a 20-foot drop. It is one of the most single memorable things that ever happened in the Attitude Era. He sails off, like I say, through the Spanish Announce table. James Ross calls the action perfectly. Good God Almighty! Good God Almighty! That killed him! As God is my witness, he is broken in half. Amazing. Perfect commentary. Absolutely perfect. This is one of those bumps that no matter how many times you see it, yeah, it still looks impressive. It genuinely does. But, and this is written in capitals on my notes, B-U-T, but it will never, ever, ever be as good as the first time you saw it, will it? It's just one of those. Foley isn't moving as the place is going fucking berserk. Terry Funk comes out. WWF Dr. Francois Petit comes out. A very concerned looking Vince McMahon comes out. The replay shows, the first thing I spot when you see the first replay is Foley did incredibly well to steer himself so that he would land through the table. If you watch the bump, the first one, as he's thrown off, he grabs hold with his left hand of the top of the cell and is able to push and steer himself. So he's coming down back first, straight through the table. So the tiny snout table, sorry. That is very, very, very cool. Medics, they raise the cell with Taker on top so they can get a stretcher out for Foley. Medics attend to Mick as he's put on the stretcher, as Jim Ross basically says, this match is over. We apologise for this match being over. We know how much you're looking forward to it. Taker climbs down, and then there's this rumbling sound from the crowd. It's like, what's just happened? The camera cuts to the entranceway, and Mick Foley is a fucking nutcase and is off the fucking stretcher. Now, his fucking arm, his right arm, I think it is hanging out. He's got a dislocated shoulder, so his whole right-hand side of his body, if it is his left, I do apologise, please don't nitpick me about it. His whole right-hand side is hanging down. And what does he do? Of course, what would you do? If your kid starts climbing the cage again, now take us halfway down on the opposite side. So they go up, and they go up, and they go up, and then you get the second big bump in this match. And this one, for me, is the one that's just all kinds of wrong, because Undertaker goes to chokeslam Foley, Mankind, whatever you want to call him, on top of the cell. Now, it says in Mick's book that this was not meant to happen, but the mesh collapses and Mick Foley plummets straight down onto the ring. And this was back in the day before they had those great big fucking springs that you find on the wrestling rings these days. This was a solid ring. The way that Foley thuds down is absolutely frightening. What's even worse is, remember the chair that they took to the top of the ring when they were doing the chair shots at the very start of the match? Yeah, that same chair comes down, hits Foley square in the mouth. That's fucking nasty. Foley, obviously, is knocked the fuck out. This is the scary one. This is a scary, scary bump. At least, and I say at least in the most broadest sense of the words, at least when Foley goes through the Spanish announce table, there is something, anything to break his fall. This time, you've just got a very, very solid mat to crash into. It's fucking nasty. Oh, dear me. Oh, dear, 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 dear. Dear, 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 dear. Dear, dear, dear. The medics descend on Foley again. Taker climbs down, and the way that he sort of lowers himself, but he realises, look, I've got to jump down. So he jumps down, and the way that he lands on his broken ankle, he hobbles for about a second, and then, because he's the fucking Undertaker, and he's well hard, he shrugs it off like it's nothing, choke slamming Terry Funk in one of those. You can see Terry Funk saying to Taker, look, just do something to me, just choke slam me, you've got to buy Mick some time. Very selfless performance for his friend there, very, very good. I wish I'd mentioned that to him when I met Terry. I should have said to him, look, you did fucking good shit there, man, you really did. He choke slammed him so hard that his trainers come off, for goodness sake. Mick somehow gets up, and for those first couple of seconds, it's hard to watch, it's pitiful. He drags his broken body up. He really does. Taker, one punch. Foley, he doesn't sell it, he just crumples to the mat. And you're just like, right, just pin him and end it. Just do that. And that's the thing you're thinking to this whole time. Why doesn't he finish? Why doesn't Taker finish the match? Does Foley say to him, I can keep going? Somebody, there's no way we're stopping this. We're going to keep doing this fucking match. It's just ridiculous. Oh, dear me. Taker goes for old school with a broken ankle. Because he's Undertaker as well. Mick pulls him down. We get a classic show of him smiling. He's leaning against the ropes. He's got a great big smile on his face. He's got a tooth in his nose where it's come through his fucking lip. That's where the chair hit him. He tries to pick up some steps, right? But he's got such a fucked arm, he actually can't pick them up. So Taker throws him into the cell and then rams the steps into the injured arm. Fucking nutter. Taker attempts a suicide dive, but eats cell, busting him open. In the ring, Mankind somehow hits a pile driver on a chair and gets 2 off the first cover of the match. Mankind puts the chair on Taker's face and hits a leg drop onto it. That gets another 2. Hits a double arm DDT and then hobbles to ringside and gets out a bag. emptying out thousands and thousands of thumbtacks. They aren't the special edition gold thumbtacks that some guy called Champagne used to use, but they are still nice. Mick gets the mandible. That joke will work on about 4 people, and if you got that, well done. If you don't, go watch some UBW, and any match that involves champagne and thumbtacks, you'll notice that I used to use brass thumbtacks. They were gold. Everyone uses silver thumbtacks. I used to use brass ones, and it just added a little layer when I was going for the championship. I had 2 matches where the championship was involved where I used tacks. Both of them were gold tacks, because I was the fucking guy. Oh, yes. Anyway, the thumbtacks come out, and it all goes wrong again for Foley as he's back dropped into the tacks and then chokeslammed into the tacks. And then mercifully, finally, a tombstone pile driver gets the win at 17 minutes dead. Mick refuses the stretcher and gets a standing ovation as he leaves. Now bear in mind, what I've written here, I wrote before I just read those comments there on Facebook. This is my opinion. This is a hell of a hard match to rate, in my opinion. On the one hand, this is Attitude Era wrestling. It is absolute very best. It's memorable. It made people go absolutely fucking nuts. This was the talking point for the next couple of weeks at school, at college, at work, throughout wrestling fans. If you saw it live on pay-per-view or there in person, you will never, ever forget this. This is a thing that you become the most jaded wrestling fan. But if you said, King of the Ring 98. This is the thing you'll remember. It's not Shamrock winning it or the fact that a fucking head had shoulders. This is what you remember from that night. I loved the first Hell in a Cell match. I told you that. The brutality and the violence, coupled with Shawn's ridiculous capacity to take punishment and his capacity to sell, made it such a dramatic contest. This one, however, isn't. This is a stunt fest. 2 absolutely crazy bumps. They are bonkers. They are ridiculous. They are insane. They are utterly unnecessary, in my opinion. Both of them are. And the reason I say that is because they showed after the second fall that they had some pretty fucked up stuff planned. If they'd done the hardcore brawl inside the cell without them, for example, the thumbtack spot, you heard the reaction. When the thumbtacks come out, they get such a pop because thumbtacks, as far as I know, to this point, haven't been used in the WWF before. They've not been seen in ECW, probably been used 100,000 times. But at this point, they had the novelty to them, where you thought to yourself, oh yeah, this is going to be good. I don't think either of those 2 bumps were planned. The thing about this is, as a wrestling match, it's rubbish. As a stunt fest, it's absolutely fantastic. They set the bar so very high for any future Hell in a Cell matches. In my opinion, I can think of 2 straight off the top of my head, which of course are Cactus Jack versus Triple H and Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, that are better Hell in a Cell matches, in my opinion, than this. I think this is one of those times where no matter what rating I give to this match, people are going to disagree with me, and you are completely right. Or there's no right or wrong about this. Your opinion is your opinion. I believe that if you give this match any more than 3 stars, then you're wrong. I can't, in good conscience, rate it any higher than that. And I've got to be honest, I'd be probably closer to a 2.5 star. I'm going to go 3, and we'll leave it at that. How's that sound? So, our main event, in one of those have fun following that one, lads, is Kane defeating Steve Austin in a first blood match to win the WWF Championship. Kane has his normally naked left arm completely covered up. There is literally no bare skin on Kane anywhere. Austin, on the other hand, has the mother of all bandages on his right arm here. No, seriously, it's fucking massive. Austin attacks first with a Fez press and an elbow, followed by a shot with the championship belt. He pulls a turnbuckle pad off. These are all generic things that you would do in a first blood match if you weren't wrestling a guy who hasn't got any exposed skin. How can you win? Jim Ross tells us that Austin had a staph infection in his elbow and spent 3 days in hospital. That would explain the colossal pad. They brawl around the outside as the cell is lowered, almost squashing Austin. So they brawl around the cell, then bust the door open and escape as the cell starts to rise up again. Brawl at the entrance where Kane reverses a pile driver attempt and then reverses a suplex attempt. Because I tell you something, Stone Cold Steve Austin, when I'm in a first blood match and I'm trying to bust open my opponent, hitting suplex is just the way to go, isn't it? That's what I do. I suplex this shit out of people, thus busting them. Oh wait. As if he's listening to me as I'm writing my notes many years later, Kane picks up a security rail and throws it at Austin. Austin's able to get his hands up though. In the ring, Austin hits one move, just the one, the leg drop over the ropes, yeah? When the neck's against the ropes, drops the leg. You know what it is. And then they go back to brawling on the outside again, you know? Because that's what they do, they actually do it. That's just what they do. The referee gets bumped. Kane hits a diving clothesline. Austin rams Kane into the exposed turnbuckle. Does nothing. As Mankind comes hobbling quite literally out with a chair. Austin has none of it. Just no-sells all the offense. The cage starts to be lowers again. Stunner for Mankind. Stunner for Kane. And then out limps Taker, also with a chair. Austin picks up Mankind's chair. Taker swings at Mankind, but misses, smashing the chair into Austin's chair, which goes into Austin's face. Austin goes down, blades on camera, idiot. Does a manly blade job, though. Taker puts the referee in, wants to wake the referee, pours gasoline on him to wake him up. Well, that'll do it, won't it? That'll revive him. Kane and Austin brawl until the referee comes round. He sees Austin is bleeding, stops the match, and gives the win to Kane at 14 minutes and 52 seconds. Austin stares in utter disbelief. Jim Ross is speechless, and high in one of the executive boxes, Vince McMahon just quietly smiles. End the show. A decent brawl, nothing special, nothing is even half as good as what we saw last month. You know, but it was all right. It was better than I remember, is what I'll say. This show features some okay stuff. In fact, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, I went into this one with quite low expectations. I remember it being not very good, and especially after Over the Edge last month, which was straight up rubbish. I was expecting this pay-per-view to not deliver, but it's pretty. Yeah, it's not great. It's not a fantastic show. I wouldn't say it's pretty fantastic, but that's just not true. What I'll say is, my expectations were low. I went in with very low expectations. They exceeded all of my expectations and then some. Basically, it goes like this. If you've got a pay-per-view, it's got 2 3-star matches on it and 3 2-star matches, well, I mean, that's a thumbs up from me. There really is more to this pay-per-view than just the one match. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of 1998. Was it great? King of the Ring 1998. What did you think of the show? What are your memories of the Hell in a Cell match? Do you think, like some people, that it is one hell of an overrated match? Do you think, are you one of these people that voted that year that this was the match of the year, for example? You know, I'd love to know what you think down below, ladies and gentlemen. Next up in this series, we're going to do Great American Bash 1998 from WCW. I've been Mark P. Please leave me a comment down below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button if you would as well. And I've been Mark P. Thank you so much for watching. Take it easy and good night.